we want to start with George Floyd. So George Floyd, this is something that is one of those things that's actually difficult for me to even talk about it, because one of the difficulties here is that it is really hard to watch. This is kind of the culmination of everything that is wrong with the police system, with our justice system, with how the police interact with people. And we've got a man who is scared to death. I want to run through that. And we've got a police who are just sort of indifferent to human life. We've got somebody who is very clearly, disturbed, whether that's drugs or alcohol, or whether that is just a mental problem. He's very clearly disturbed in everything that we see. Now, just as a reminder, remember what we saw when we take this back a couple months, when all of this originally happened. We saw this from sort of the outsider's perspective. We had the people with their cell phones who were recording, and that's all that we were able to see. We could see from their perspective. We saw that officer, Derek Chauvin, with his knee on George's neck for 8.5 minutes, and he's sort of slowly dying before our very eyes. But we didn't see what led up to that. We just saw that sort of horrendous scene. And so what these videos show are they're actually from the body cameras, from the officers who were there. And so I want to show you what we're going to be looking at. So these are the two officers. I have them circled here in red. This is Officer Kung with a Keung and Officer Lane. These are the two people who are actually showing up. They're responding to the scene. So we're gonna kind of join them right as they're approaching George Floyd's car. The other two, Derek Chauvin and who's the other guy? Oh, Officer Thao. These two guys showed up after the fact. You remember Derek Chauvin? This is the picture, of course, of George Floyd before he was killed by Derek Chauvin, and they came upon the scene after the fact. So specifically, we're looking at body camera from these two guys. Now, it's a weird situation because I haven't really dug into the specifics about what's happening with these body camera. They're sealed. They were not supposed to be released to the public. They were somebody sort of in secret was recording them with their cell phone. So when we watch these videos, it's not even the actual video file. Somebody's watching the video on a computer screen, and then somebody's taking a recording of that, which if a video or evidence like that, it's called discovery in criminal law. If that stuff is under seal, if that stuff is not to be released, what that person was doing, they were recording it, that's a huge no-no. I mean, you can't do that. What'll happen in these types of situations or these types of cases is they will set up these little stations for defense attorneys to go into and view certain evidence. And so think of this like in a child pornography case, right? It's a very difficult thing for a criminal defense lawyer to have to do. Many criminal defense lawyers have kids, and kind of thinking about these situations or these types of crimes is horrendous. And, we have to work with the government to not provide this information, this discovery. We do not want it to get out. So, and I'm in agreement with that, right? I don't want that out either. So the idea is that they're not just going to give you the file. The prosecutor's office, the court, the police department, say we're representing somebody who's been charged with child pornography. They're not just going to say, oh, well, here's all the pictures we found on this guy's computer, so we're just going to send those over to you via email. They're not going to do that, because if those get into the wrong hands, it's more child pornography that's out there on, wherever you find it on the internet, and it's going to be spread around, and these things are traded like, collector cards and stuff. I mean, it's really kind of gross, disgusting things that are happening. And so we want to stop that. We don't want to be a part of that. So what they'll do is they will actually set up a viewing room, essentially, right? They'll have a computer, they'll have a laptop. The defense attorney or attorneys or expert witnesses, we can go into those rooms. It's not only with child porn, it's a lot of types of cases where we're going to go in and actually view the evidence in sort of a controlled environment where nothing can be taken in or out. And that's kind of what this looks like to me. It looks like they set up sort of a room, and somebody went in there and was watching these videos and decided this stuff needed to get out. So they just took their camera on their cell phone and just started recording the computer screen. So it's it's kind of one of these things that's in a questionable area. So I got the videos from the Daily Mail. They're public. Somebody leaked them to that website. And so I pulled the videos from them because I don't know what a lot of these different social media sites and things are doing with it. I do not want to play the video in the entirety. I don't want to do that anyways. But I will kind of jump around and we'll go through some clips of it so you can see some of what I am talking about. So let's actually dive into it. Before I do that though, I want to just kind of call your attention to something that I thought was very clear to me throughout the entirety of the video. And we saw this when we saw the original bystander footage back a few months ago when George Floyd was originally killed. He was scared to death. I mean, absolutely just petrified throughout this entire altercation. Doesn't matter if he was on drugs. Everybody from the other side is coming out. He's on drugs. Of course, he's out of his mind. It looked more than that to me. This wasn't somebody who was just kind of high, spazzed out on drugs. This was somebody who has a history with the police and is scared to death of them. And we can see that from the very beginning. So here is a quick screenshot of one of the earliest interactions with the police department. So this is Officer Lane, who this fellow right here, who comes up to his car and is kind of tapping on the window with his gun or his flashlight. And he's got his gun drawn already. There's going to be a quick kind of back and forth between Officer Lane and George Floyd. And just look at George's face. I mean, he is scared to death. And he should be. He should be. There's a gun being pointed at him right on the side of the road. And as we're going to watch, as we listen to this also, it's really hard to hear a lot of the communication that's going on between the officer and George Floyd. And so traditionally, the officer will walk right up and they'll just say, do you know why I stopped you? Do you know why I pulled you over? Do you know why I'm here? Do you know, and it's kind of a real clear delineation of what this is all about. And it's hard for me to capture that from what I watched. I watched this twice. Hard for me to really pull out a clear, concrete example of communication from this officer. We just don't see it. George Floyd is also, I mean, he's petrified after they actually get him out of the car. He's devastated. I mean, he's very, very upset. He's emotionally totally out of sorts. And he is saying things. We've got some quotes from the article. Again, this is from the Daily Mail. They do a great job kind of putting these things together. He says that, a couple quotes. He says, the officer says, I believe so. We found a pipe. We found a weed pipe. There might be something else there like PCP or something like that. When George Floyd is sort of wailing that he can't breathe, they say, you're fine. You're talking fine. Floyd replies to that, I'll probably just die this way. He says, I'm through. I'm claustrophobic. My stomach hurts. My neck hurts. Everything hurts. I need some water or something, please. The officer responds to him. Then stop talking. Stop yelling. That's Derek Chauvin replies that. He says, it takes a heck of a lot of oxygen to talk. And so as Floyd stops moving, people start yelling at him. And that's kind of where we pick it up, right? It's where we saw it back when this happened originally a few months back. And he passed away right in front of our eyes. So there was a lot of fear, a lot of horror. He says multiple times throughout this entire altercation that he's just petrified and he's essentially scared to death. So with that backdrop, understanding sort of this level of fear, let's take a look at the actual video. And I'm going to scrub through it a little bit. I'm not going to play the whole thing, which kind of coincidentally, I think is 8 minutes and 38 seconds, which is right around the 8 minutes and 46 seconds, I think it was, that the knee was on George Floyd's neck, which is kind of a strange coincidence, but here it is. So let's take a look. So as we're going through, we're going to see that this officer just taps on his window. Now let's see if we can hear any of the...
Let me see your hand. Please, both hands.
Okay, right there. Did you see how long that was? That was about 2 seconds. He taps on the window, and then he's got his gun drawn already, and he's shouting at him, hands, let me see your hands. Let me see your hands. And the gun is already drawn in his face. So let's watch that one more time because this, I think, is pretty important. This sets the tone of the entire altercation. His gun is already drawn and George Floyd is still in his car. So based on what we see, I mean, the video starts right now. I can't really presume that anything happened before this, that they already had a conversation and that George Floyd left, or that he knew what this was all about, or any of that. This is like put yourself in this position. What if you were just stopped randomly by an officer? He's tapping on your glass and his gun is in his hand, and as soon as you open the door, he's screaming, "Hands, hands, hands," and puts the gun right in your face. How does that start an interaction? It's not good. Anybody in that position is going to understandably be scared to death like George Floyd was. Let's take a look. I just rewound that clip. Let's go back to it and dive in.
I see your hands.
Damn, man.
Stay in the car. Let me see your other hand.
I'm sorry.
Let me see your other hand.
Please,
Both hands.
do nothing.
Put your
Gun.
hands up right now. Let me see your other hand. Put your hand up there. Put your hand up there. Hands on the wheel. Hands on the wheel.
All right, so that goes on for a little bit longer. It's a lot about the hands in the wheel. A lot of, I don't see anything there that would be threatening. He didn't have anything in his hands. He's totally out of sorts, right? He thinks he should get out of the car, and then he says, "Stay back in the car. Let me see your hands." He pulls both of his hands up like this. He puts his hands on the steering wheel, and so this is going to go on for a little bit. And does the officer explain what this is all about, or what's going on, or do anything to calm him down, or to put his gun away, or to say, look, I just have to ask you a couple questions. Don't freak out. I'm sorry. Let's figure this out. Does any of that happen?
Waltz is in the car. Put your foot back in.
I'm so sorry. God dang, man. Man, I got shot the same way as I was before.
Okay, well, when I say let me...
Yeah, so he says, I got shot again. I got shot the same way as this. His gun's out the whole time, and he's just not a threat. The officer can see both of his hands. We're going to see here in a little bit that the other two people who were in the vehicle with George have already been pulled out. So this officer just has a gun in his hand pointed directly at George's head. I don't see a threat here. If you see a threat and you see why that's justified, you should probably go work for the police department. They probably agree with you.
Let me see your hands. You put your hands up.
I'm so sorry.
You got them?
Man, dang, man.
Put your hands on top of your head.
Last time I got shot like that, I was...
Hands on top of your head. Hands on top of your head. Step out of the vehicle and step away from me, all right? Step out and face away. Step out and face away.
Yeah, he's crying.
Please don't shoot me. Please, man.
Please don't shoot me.
Step out and face away.
I'm gonna get out of here, man. Please don't shoot me, man. Please, man.
All right, so he's very clearly afraid. Please don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me. He says, I'll look at you eye to eye. I'll look you right in the eye, man. Just please don't shoot me. And this officer is just kind of flippant about it, just nonchalant. I'm not going to shoot you, man. Get out of the car. Not going to shoot you. Like, I've done this a million times. This is routine. Almost like he doesn't even care what George is going through, because he doesn't. None of these guys do. And let's keep going.
I just lost my mom, man.
Step out and face
I
away.
just lost my mom, he says.
Step out and face away.
Please don't shoot me, Mr. Officer. Please don't shoot me,
Please
man.
don't shoot me. Please don't shoot
You're not
me.
shooting me, man.
I'm not shooting you. Step out and face away.
Okay. Please, man. Please. I didn't know, man.
Get out of the car.
I didn't know, Mr. Officer. I didn't know.
All right, so please don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me. I just lost my mom. I don't know, Mr. Officer. He's trying to be respectful. They pull him out of the car. This goes on for a little bit. So they actually are pulling him out, and so here's the part. I'm going to fast forward a couple minutes. This is where they're talking to his passengers in the vehicle. So the point is, they're not a threat anymore, right? They're out.
It ain't us. We was getting a ride. I just got my phone fixed. It's my ex-man. Adam know me. It's my ex. He keeps telling me.
All right, so George is now out of the car. We saw some other pictures here. So, there's a little bit of difficulty getting him out of the car because he's petrified. He doesn't know what to do. You can see him sort of kind of freaking out. I just lost my mom. I got shot like this way. You know, I don't know if those things are accurate or not. It doesn't matter. The man is in the middle of a breakdown, of a nervous breakdown. An officer was just outside of his car with, you know, a gun pointed at his head. And he really, to this point, I have not heard an explanation of what this was all even about. George Floyd is just really upset and he's really concerned. And so we flash forward here a little bit. There's a lot of conversation that's taking place between this officer and these two passengers. I think this was an ex-girlfriend and this was a friend who were also in the car. And we're gonna, when we scrub around, basically what they're doing is they're moving George Floyd from one location from his car into this car over here. So they're going to be bringing him back over here. This is the police vehicle, and they're going to put him in that vehicle. So we kind of, you know, get over there, and they go through this situation where they're trying to get him in the car. And we see some screenshots. Some of those screenshots that I was sharing with you are from this scene. And we're going to see again, right? This is George Floyd 100% just petrified of what's about to happen to him. I mean, he starts saying things like, I'm going to die. I'm claustrophobic. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Like, I can't take it. The anxiety is so high, whether he's on drugs or not. I mean, this is a person in the middle of a breakdown, you know, of a catastrophic breakdown. And so there's a really callous part of our society for some sick reason that thinks that people who are addicted to drugs are sort of like subhuman, like they don't matter anymore. Well, he did that to himself. He took the fentanyl himself. He's a bad person. So what are the cops supposed to do? Are they supposed to just let him go? Or are they supposed to do what they did, right? And so they kind of go down this road, but it's all predicated on the fact that somebody who's addicted to something is sort of subhuman. They're worthless. They've done this to themselves. There's a moral failing there. These people are sinful. They're bad people. And so we can sort of just treat them however the hell we want. So as we clip through this, you're going to see more and more of that. You're going to see these officers, and he says, please don't put me in there. Please don't put me in there. They're like, get in there, man. You're going in the car. Don't care. We're going to put the windows down for you, you know, all of that type of stuff. And George is very, very, very freaked out, as he should be. He knew where this was going. Right? He knew that this was going to be something that got really, really bad, and he was right. He was right. They were wrong. So let's pick it up.
Stay on your feet and face the car door. Please. No. Please. Get out the door, man.
Get here, please.
Man. Please, let me talk to you, please. You ain't
please let me talk to you.
We're not going to listen to what you're saying.
Can you watch that car? Just make sure no one goes in it.
I hear you, but you are going to face the door right now.
Listen up. Stop.
I'll do anything. I'll do anything y'all tell me to do, man. I'm not a resistor, man.
Yeah, they do it. They check his pockets.
You can ask him. They know me here, though.
They know me here.
I won't do nothing like that, y'all. Why is it going on like this? Look at my wrist, Mr. Officer. I'm not that kind of guy. Mr. Officer, I'm not that kind of guy.
Stop.
Please. I'm not that kind of guy, Mr. Officer. Please.
All right, so he's pleading with them, please, please, please. I'm not that kind of guy. You know, he's very afraid. As we clip through the rest, so you know, they're going to have this conversation by the side of the car. They finally open the car door, and they're trying to shove him in there. I mean, he really does not want to get in the vehicle. So let's pick that up.
None of y'all, man. Nothing.
You got it?
Inside in your pocket real quick on your shirt.
I'll roll the windows down, okay?
I'll roll the windows down, okay?
I'm going in, Mr. Officer. I'm going to go in. No, you're not. I got to go in. Take a seat.
Grab a seat, man.
Mind, y'all don't believe me, Mr. Officer. Take a seat. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not that kind of guy, man. Take a seat. Y'all, I'm going to die here. Take a seat. I'm going to die, man.
I'm going to die.
Right now. And I just had COVID, man. I don't want to go back to that.
Okay, I'll roll the windows.
I just had COVID. I don't want to go back to that.
Dang, man.
Listen.
I'm not that kind of guy.
I'll roll the windows down and
Please,
you put
man.
your legs in, all right? I'll
Y'all
put the air on.
stop. Look at that. Look at that.
Not even listening.
Look at it. Look at it.
We can fix it,
Look.
but not while you're standing out here.
Okay, man. God, y'all do me bad, man. Man, I don't want to try to win. I don't want to try to win. I don't want to win. I'm claustrophobic.
I don't want to win. I don't want to win. I'm claustrophobic. I'm not that kind of guy. Please don't do this to me. You're all doing me bad, is what he says. I mean, you can see it on his face. This guy is petrified. And the cops are, you know, 4 guys just kind of, hey, you're going in there. You're going to be shoved in there. And whether you like it or not, And they attempt that. So this goes back. We're going to see them continually try to struggle to get him in. One of the officers goes around the backside of the car to try to pull him in. I want you to notice what happens with his hands. So his hands are already behind his back. They're already handcuffed. Now, if you put your hands behind your back and you try to raise your arms, up behind your neck, you're going to dislocate your shoulders. They don't go that way. You can't, do a loop around your head with your hands clasped. And so one of the officers is pulling him, and you're going to see that they're actually pulling, his arms, kind of pulling them up and out. It's very painful. If you've ever done any mixed martial arts, you'll know what that feels like. It's not a good feeling. And so the police are doing that. I mean, they're doing everything they can to get him in the car. They're unsuccessful. And then that's when he's out of the car on the other side. So remember that picture that I showed you of Derek Chauvin, the officer, leaning on George's neck. That is from this side of the street, from over here in the video. George Floyd is going to be going into the vehicle this way, and the officers are going to pull him out the other side. So they're going to bring him out to the other side of the video of the vehicle. That's where he's originally going to be placed down. Then there's going to be passerbys who are walking by, and then that's the video that we saw. So they're actually, viewing him with Derek having his neck on his knee on George's neck.